Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to our second geography lesson. Welcome to all of you. Can you make sure you've got a pen and paper ready for the session, as you're going to need it? I'll pause the video quickly and grab yourself what you need. Fabulous. So now today we're going to be looking at how land use is used in different settlements, so building on what we did in our last lesson. And we'll start our lesson today with our knowing more, remembering more. So question 1. A settlement refers to a site of human dwelling, which is a home or where people live, but only for more than 5 people living there. I'll read it again. A settlement refers to a site of human dwelling, but only if more than 5 people live there. True or false? Number 2. What is the name given to a settlement with less than 100 people living there and little to no services? Read it again. What is the name given to a settlement with less than 100 people living there and little to no services? Is it a hamlet, a town, a village, or a city? Number 3. Where would villagers find services like large supermarkets or hospitals? Where would villagers find services like large supermarkets or hospitals? And number 4. Name 3 specialised services you may find in a city. Name 3 specialised services you may find in a city. I'll give you a moment to finish them off before I give you the answers. Okay, the answers are, so number 1, the answer is false. A settlement can vary in population from 1 to 1,000. It doesn't have to have more than 5 people. Number 2, the name given to a settlement with less than 100 people living there with little to no services is a hamlet. Number 3, where would villagers find services like large supermarkets or hospitals? Well, they'd find them in their nearest town. And number 4, some specialised services that you may find in the city are universities, large hospitals, shopping centres, businesses, and maybe you might have some other answers as well. So well done if you got any of those correct. Okay, so our learning objectives today is to know what the factors are affecting the location of a settlement. Number 2 is to understand how physical features of land use affect settlement. And number 3, to identify specific land use in different settlements. Okay. Here is the knowledge organizer, so any vocabulary that we come across in the lesson today, you can go back through and have a quick look to see if you're not sure what it means. Okay, so some vocabulary that we've come across in our last lesson was land use, hamlet, village, town, city, and settlement. And some words that we come across we have done in our last topic, but we'll go through again today are rural and urban, agricultural, residential, and commercial. Okay, so what does this map show? Well, this is a UK relief map. Okay, a relief map of an area is the difference between the highest and the lowest points. A relief map will show mountains and low points like valleys. So looking at this map, where are the highest points in the UK? Have a think. I'll give you a moment. Well, the highest points in the UK are looking at Scotland, so northern parts of England, Scotland and Wales, and you can identify them by the red areas. The red areas around here are the mountainous areas, they are the higher areas. So then, on the contrary, where are the lowest points in the UK? I'll give you a second to think. Incorrect. So if you're thinking that the lowest points in the UK are looking at south of England, looking at east of England, all this green area here is where the lowest points are. It's flatter land, so it's easy for people to make settlements on. Well done. So question 1, or task 1 should we say. On your activity sheet you will find you've got this. I want you to describe the relief map in the UK and what does it tell us about the terrain in the UK. So some of the words you might want to use is on the word bank. You've got land, flat, gentle, steep, mountainous, highland, north and south. I've given you 4 sentence starters, which I need you to complete the rest of the sentence. And additionally, there's another challenge as well. If you'd like to pause the video now and give you a chance to finish this activity, and when you've completed it, continue the video and we'll continue with the lesson. Okay, if you'd like to pause now, please. Okay, right, let us continue. Okay, so where do people live? So now we've got 2 maps. Like we've just worked from the map on the left. Let's look at the map on the right. Now this map, it shows population density and the amount of people that live in a given area. And usually the darker the area, the more people that live there. So look, comparing 2 maps, the relief map and the density map, look at where people live, where you're finding the darker areas. Well, we're finding the darker areas in the flatter Greenland. If we look here, London being the largest, densest area in the UK, actually here, flat land. And a lot of the darker areas here are some of the major towns and cities in the UK, and it's all flat land. It's easy for people to settle, it's close to local resources, and lots of businesses are set up there for people to live in. Okay. So thinking right back to when people started to settle in Britain and the UK, the location was very important. They needed to farm food in order to survive. So having flatland was easier because they was able to build on and grow the crops that they needed to survive. But what other reasons do you think people would need to consider before beginning to build a settlement? Have a good think. Well, let's have a look. Some of them are defense advantages, marshy land, thinking about building supplies, thinking about the land that floods. Are they in flooded area? Is that sensible to build on? The shelter from the weather, bridging points when it's close in coming to rivers and transport links, thinking about that. Water supply, natural obstacles that people have to go around. Is the land too steep, or looking at valleys and things like that? So what I want you to do is I want you to pause your video in a minute. And what I want you to do is I want you to sort these out into positive and negative factors of when deciding a location for a settlement. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. I want you to pause the video now, read through them all, and decide if they're positive or negative, and then we'll go through the answers. If you'd like to pause the video now, please. Okay, right, let's go through some of the answers then. So, positive factors. Defensive advantages. The top of a hill or highland means you can watch out for a possible attack. People may not have built on the top of that hill, but they may have had like a vantage point or a small house or a shack that people could watch out from. Water supply was essential because people needed it for water for cooking, washing, cleaning, and drinking. It's also heavy to move, so having it close to your house is very important. Building supplies, people needed to be close to wood and stone to help build houses and develop them into small villages. Shelter from the weather, you didn't want to be out in the open where the wind was really strong, but you also needed to have a location where the sun could get to the crops so that they would grow well. And bridging points. Narrow parts of the river mean that bridges can be built which could improve transport. If you're at parts where the river is too deep and too wide, it's difficult to transfer over. The negative points. You wouldn't want to live where land that floods. If it floods every year, it's going to damage your crops, it's going to damage your houses, and it's not productive. Again, marshy land is very difficult to build on. Just like Harris Garrard, this school has been built in a marshy area, but we've had the tools today to be able to develop on land such as that. If land is too deep, it's difficult to build on, and not only that, it's difficult to plant crops. Low valleys. Back then, it was easy to be attacked by other local villages and rivals. Therefore, they made sure they built elsewhere so that they had good protection. And natural obstacles. So wide rivers can be difficult to cross without a bridge. Also, mountain areas make it difficult to travel. So it wasn't a good idea to settle in those areas. Okay, so how do people use the land in their settlement? Well, we've got agricultural, We've got residential, we've got commercial, we've got industrial, leisure facilities, and business facilities, okay? Now, you won't find all of these in certain areas. So in rural areas, the countryside, land use can include forestry and farming. And in urban areas, like towns and cities, land use can be inclusive of housing or industry. Okay, so your task is, which settlement though, of all the 6 you've got on your screen, of all the 6 land use you've got on your screen, which settlement would you find the land use in? So for example, would you find agricultural in a hamlet, a village, a town, or a city? And I want you to think of the reasons why. And then I'll read out the answers to you. So pause the video again, have a quick think about it, write your answers down on a piece of paper, and I'll go through the answers. If you'd like to pause your video now. Okay, so let's go through the answers. So agricultural. Agricultural you would find generally in a hamlet or a village where there's not many people living, but there's lots of wide open spaces. Okay. Residential you would find in most places. You'd find you'd find them in cities, you'd find them in towns, villages, and hamlets. But obviously, you'd find more probably in towns and villages. Commercial you'd find most places because there are shops. You may not find them in a hamlet. You may have a corner shop if you're lucky. Most people, though, who live in hamlets and villages have to go to their local towns to get the facilities and the things that they need. Industry is generally built outside of towns where there's a bit more space because they're big factories and you need a lot of space to be built. Leisure is generally found in towns and cities, and businesses are found in cities as well. And again, here are some of the answers again, just a bit more detail. So again, agricultural land is found in hamlets and villages because there's a lot more space. Machinery, for the machinery and land is cheaper. Residential house occurs in all settlements. City usually has lots of businesses and land use due to the population. And industrial land can be found just outside settlements because they need a bit more space to have such large factories. Okay, so let's review our lesson. True or false? Okay, I'll give you a pause after each question just have a think. Number 1, nobody lives in rural areas. True or false? Well, the answer is false. They do live in rural areas. Number 2, the only jobs in rural areas are farming. True or false? It's also false. They do have some small shops and other facilities as well where they need people to work. Number 3, the land in the UK is all the same shape and height. Also false. There is difference. The relief maps show that there are mountainous areas and there are low-lying areas as well. And question 4, most people in the UK live in the northeast of the country. That is false as well. Most of the people live in Middle England or the southeast of England because most of the northern areas are mountainous. Okay, so our future learning. So moving on to our next few lessons, we're going to be looking at how different settlements have patterns, and to be able to identify the patterns that they have. Okay, and what types of people live in those settlements. Now year 6, if you go onto Purple Mash or you look in your work pack, you've obviously got your sheet with you. Complete the activity and you can submit it back for me and I will mark it. It was nice speaking to all of you and I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson. Have a good day and I will see you in our next lesson. Bye for now.